The grid goes down tonight, not for a few hours, for good. Your phone is dying. The freezer is thawing. The nearest store is 3 towns over and the road may not be passable. What do you actually know how to do? My name is Gideon Adkins, born in a holler outside Harlan, Kentucky on land my grandfather cleared. My father Earl went into the Benham mine 6 days a week. He taught me to read a creek before I could read a book. My mother Ruth kept a half-acre garden on the south slope with nothing but a push plow and her own back. Neither of them waited on the world. The world never came. 10 skills. The ones that kept mountain families alive when there was no grid to fail. When the lights go out and do not come back on, they are the only ones that matter. Number 10. Banking a wood stove for a 14-hour burn. This is not tending a fire. This is the difference between waking up warm and waking up to a dead house in January. You rake the coals to the back of the firebox. Lay 1 green hickory log across the bed, bark side down. Close the damper to a 1/4-inch crack and walk away. My father Earl left for the Benham mine before 4 every winter morning of his working life. The stove was banked the night before. Ruth never woke to a cold house. Neither did we. A propane furnace dies the second the grid does. It needs a signal, a valve, a circuit board. The hickory does not know what a circuit board is. It just burns clean. Number 9. Reading a spring before you drink from it. Mountain water killed children when it was wrong. This was the first thing Ruth taught on the land, not because she read it anywhere, because her mother had shown her once, and once was enough. You kneel at the source, never the runoff. Look for watercress at the lip. Watercress means clean. No cress, no drink. Cup a handful and hold it to the light. Cloudy means wait. Clear means safe. Look for what is living at the edge. A dead spring has nothing growing at its mouth. The grandmothers who knew this are mostly gone. Their grandchildren live in towns and trust a tap they cannot trace to its source. The springs are still there. The knowledge is not. Number 8. Splitting fatwood for a fire in any weather. A wet morning fire was not an inconvenience. It was hypothermia. Find an old pine stump rotted to the heart. The center soaks in resin for years. Split off amber slivers with a hatchet. 1 sliver from a single match burns hot enough to start green wood in a downpour. Boys in eastern Kentucky learned this by age 8. A chore, not a craft. Same age you checked rabbit traps. Same age you learned to watch. The ridge behind this land still has pine stumps from timber my grandfather cut in the 1920s. The fatwood in them is as good today as it was then. A box of fatwood at the hardware store runs $19. The stump is free. Number 7. Trapping protein with a wire snare. When the meat is gone, you find the run. The rabbit run is the narrow path beaten through brush by repeated use. You bend a sapling to the ground, tie a fine wire loop to its tip, and set the loop 6 inches above the path. The rabbit walks through. The sapling springs. Supper. As a boy, checking snares was a Saturday morning job. Same list as the woodpile and the chickens. Not optional. Not a hobby. A contribution to the household. 6 snares before school. Checked at dusk. Half a winter's protein for a family from $4 worth of wire. The wire still works exactly the same way it did in 1944. The boys do not check the runs anymore. Number 6. Stopping a deep cut with what grows behind the house. The nearest hospital was 4 hours away. The plant was 4 feet away. Yarrow. It grows wild on every slope in Appalachia. A boy gashes his leg with an axe. His father pulls a handful of yarrow from the path, crushes the leaves between his palms, packs them into the wound. Bleeding stops in under a minute. A strip of shirt for a bandage. The Cherokee taught this to the settlers in the 1700s. 200 years the chain held. Bessie Stamper on the next ridge kept what she called a pharmacy. She showed me yarrow, plantain, mullein, slippery elm. I was 18. I wrote it down from memory. The plant is still there. The woman is not. Number 5. Building a spring house over running water. Refrigeration without a wire. No machine. No bill. You find the spring on the north slope where it runs cold all summer. Lay flat creek stones in a square. Set a low roof of split shakes. Run the water through a stone trough inside. Milk kept 4 days. Butter kept a week. My great-grandfather built one on this land. By the time I inherited the property, it was collapsing. I rebuilt it myself after Clara died. Same stones, same trough, same cold water running through. It holds 54 degrees in August. No electricity on the day it was built. None required today. A modern refrigerator dies in 18 hours without power. The spring house does not know the grid exists. It never did. Number 4. Reading the woods for a storm coming. No radio, no app, no tower. Just the ridge at first light, if you know what to look for. Smoke from the chimney falling sideways means pressure dropping. Cattle gathered tight under the oak means rain within the hour. Crickets gone silent in July means a bad storm by dark. Leaves turned to show their pale undersides means wind. Earl taught me to read the creek the same way he taught me to whittle. By showing, not explaining. Once through, then you knew. I still read the ridgeline smoke every morning before I checked the bees. 30 seconds. Never required a subscription. The leaves do not lie. They do not run on batteries. They will not fail when the tower does. Number 3. Saving seed from the garden every fall. Next year's food, paid for in October. Let the best plants go to seed. Dry them on paper, label in pencil, store in mason jars in the cellar. Modern hybrid seeds will not breed true. 1 generation and stop. The seed companies designed them that way. Heirloom mountain varieties have been passed hand to hand for 150 years. When the trucks stop shipping, the woman with the mason jars feeds her family. When Ruth died, she left me a notebook and a seed tin. Varieties nobody has a name for anymore. I have grown them ever since. Never found them in any catalog. The seed companies exist to sell you next year's seeds. Ruth never bought them twice. Number 2. Putting up a year of food before the first snow. This is not prepping. It is the oldest household management in the mountains. By Halloween, 200 quarts of canned vegetables, dried beans, sauerkraut in crocks, potatoes in a sand bin, apples buried in straw, canned meat from the fall hog, fed October to June without a grocery trip. Ruth put up 200 jars every fall. When Clara married into this land, she ran the canning operation with a seriousness Ruth respected quietly and never said out loud. When the arthritis took Clara's hands, she raised the beds, changed the tools, and kept working. The jars kept filling. You replaced all of it with a phone app and a delivery window. The window will not always open. Number 1. Knowing every neighbor within 3 miles by name. The most overlooked skill on this list. The one that determines everything else. He could name every family from the head of the holler to the mouth. Who had a milk cow? Who had a working tractor and would lend it? Which widow needed firewood split before December? That map lived in his head the way a contact list lives in a phone. When the grid fails, the skills on this list matter. But only if the people who carry them can find each other. I still know every family within 3 ridges. I check on Thomas without being asked. the same way I checked on Ruth for 19 years. This is not sentiment. It is how a holler works. There is a woman in Wise County, Virginia, 91 years old. She knows which roots cure a fever and which ones kill a man. She has tried to teach her great-granddaughter. The great-granddaughter visits at Christmas. Every old person left in those mountains is a library on fire. The young person who sits beside them with a notebook and the patience to listen twice is the only one who walks away with what was inside. That skill costs nothing. It is disappearing every week. Do not wait.
Tell me in the comments which of these 10 skills you already carry.
Which one surprised you most? Which one are you going to learn before the month is out? I read every one. Next video.
I will see you there.